Once, in search of a modification for a stalker, I was looking for something mega hardcore so that the mod would humiliate me as much as possible, insult me, so that my fart would fly up to the stratosphere level. Something is more difficult on the USSI. Maybe more difficult than area? Didn't they finish you, did they? God, there are so many of them. Dear Diary, I can't find the words to describe the pain and humiliation I experienced today. My life is broken forever.
И вот мне попалось вот это.
Meet DSH-MOD. Chapter 1. About the name of the mod. There are different names among stalkers. DSH-MOD, 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 and so on. Most likely it is correct to call it DSH-MOD, as it is the initial of the developer under the name Denis Shaposhnikov.
Разработчику нужно было буковку H сделать не заглавной, и, возможно, бы не коверкали бы название.
Chapter 2. About the plot. In fact, this is a mod combined pack 2, OP2, where some quests are changed, but most of the quests in this mod are simply cut for balance. Namely, the shooter's hiding places. Old-timer caches. Kostia's additional task. The plot of Velazer. Sidorovich's bad contacts. The plot of a professional. Search for embryos. Musical caches. Killing the shadow of the monolith, the plot of the sniper, the plot of the chess player. Well?
Сюжет снайпера. Сюжет с шахматистом.
Did you like it? What does it feel like to kill your friends? Have you experienced the high? Have you experienced the high? Have you experienced the high? Documents for Varnin.
Документы для Воронина.
They were cut solely for the balance of the game, and I think that many people did not really like the endless search for caches, especially those that were behind the locations. Nothing now depends on hamster tasks like collecting orders. Among other things, they give unknown chips for them, which Vasily is very good at buying up in the swamps. These chips can only be sold to Vasily. It is up to you to decide whether to fulfill them or not. I didn't. Chapter 3. Bonfires. Campfires work the same in Endless 7 and in DSH-MOD. Allows you to save the game process and remove all radiation. For fires, you also need matches. They can be bought from merchants. The only difference from NLS-7 is that your campfire will not go out after loading and saving.
Также хочу отметить то, что в дождливую погоду шанс розжига костра меньше.
Блин.
Quiet, 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 quiet. Chapter 4.
Глава 4.
Interface. The backpack interface is also taken from the NLS-7, but there are some differences. There is no unloading in the DSH-MOD, but only a manual stack of cartridges. It would seem that it was possible to make an auto stack, but I think this was done only so that the unloading section itself has functionality, but also affects the gameplay of the game itself. For example, you have a certain type of cartridges, well, let's say caliber 9x18 to PB in the amount of 100 pieces, where one pack of cartridges itself is 20 pieces, a total of 5 packs, each of 20 pieces of cartridges. We loaded the weapon for 8 rounds, and there were 12 rounds left in the first pack of cartridges. Used up the loaded 8 rounds and load the next ones. And you will load from the second pack of 20 cartridges, from the third, and so on. That is, the game takes the pack of cartridges with the most cartridges. Also, if there are cartridges left in the weapon and you decide to reload, then these cartridges go into a separate pack of cartridges. Let's take an example, with 8 rounds, but divided into 2 packs of 5 rounds and 3 rounds. And the main character will not be able to load 8 rounds, although it holds such a number, and he will load 5 rounds first and after 3 rounds. This is exactly what the unloading section is for, in order to manually connect cartridges into full packs of cartridges. The mask wipe gag is used in its entirety, unlike the Inisher 7. If the main character is with the mask removed, then he drinks from a flask, gives a small boost of stamina for a while. The weapon is unchanged, just the contents of the weapon, ammunition, grenades in the backpack, artifact train, artifact contents in backpack, pouch, contents of batteries, matches. In the section of medicine, the content of pharmacies, antirads, food. The backpack, the full contents of the backpack, opens with a delay of 3 seconds accompanied by animation. In order for the sleeping bag to work, you need to be interested in the sleeping bag itself and the presence of a fire source, a fire or kerosene. You won't be able to sleep in an open place in the rain, you need a dry place. In the interface itself, you can install 2 pistols, a main and a spare, a main weapon, binoculars, an artifact detector, a knife, armor, a flashlight, and a night vision device. There is a search for artifacts for 14 slots. In addition to artifacts, exoskeleton batteries and detectors are installed there. Head 5 gas mask.
Противогаз.
The gas mask in NLS-7 protected against polluted air in the northern locations. In Dash fashion, a mask must be worn almost constantly, with the exception of costumes that do not have a mask. Although there is no polluted air, you need to wear a mask for several reasons. A suit with the mask off does not protect you from radiation and telepathy. The characteristics of this costume with and without a mask are visible on the screen. Running through the radiation background, without it, the main character becomes infected very quickly. In telepathy, the situation is similar. Even a simple blind dog will quickly kill you with psi radiation. When hitting the bullet, the main character without a mask will die immediately, in other words, a one-shot. Wearing a mask will save you from death in the head. Chapter 6. NPC Logic. Be prepared for the fact that it will be much more difficult to kill enemies, since enemies are good at shooting and often hit the target. That is, this is your head and you will meet such moments all the time. He also notices the main character from a long distance. It follows that no matter what kind of stalker player you are, you will need to adapt to the unhurried, neat gameplay of the game. The logic of the enemies here has changed dramatically. For example, the fact that the enemy will chase you to the last, while keeping a long distance, and as soon as you open up, he will hit very accurately. When shooting from both sides, the enemy will literally force you to close the distance. Because holding him at gunpoint, he rarely makes mistakes, does not set himself up, and sits until the last cover. 2.7 Mutants Mutant Logic in DSH-MOD is a separate form of art.
Логика мутантов в DSH-моде — это отдельный вид искусства.
Know only one thing, the most important enemy is the sword, that is, you. Why? Take it as you should. Do not be surprised if, running by, the warring mutants switch to you. Do not be surprised if you found an artifact and took it, then a crowd of dogs with a couple of bloodsuckers ran at you. Remember, if you don't see a mutant, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. He is waiting in the wings. Let's start with the fact that mutates are absent within the border of the life. That is, they can walk around the entire location freely, unlike other mods. They can chase you from the beginning of the location to the end of the location, and even on the next location. You ran away to the next location, hoping that they would not touch you. As soon as you move 5 meters away from the crossing, those same mutants will come to you to finish the task. From the transition to the location, it also works for NPCs. The detection of the main character occurs visually. Reaction to noise, gunshots, or an axe.
Тот мутант, который вас обнаружил, как бы сообщает своим подопечным. И действует все это в радиусе Wi-Fi до дальности видимости.
So after killing one mutant, wait for the next ones. As for the mutants themselves, some species have some kind of ability. Pushkins cause bleeding from a distance, dealing chemical damage. Due to this ability, your armor is also broken. Ordinary blind dogs throw off their weapons and deal side damage. White blind dogs have similar abilities, but in addition create phantoms for additional psionic damage. Grey dogs knock the main character off the site, dealing side damage. Wild boars are radioactive. Cats put the main character to sleep. Bloodsuckers are beaten with the so-called loss. kinks have the ability to walk silently, can attack quite unexpectedly. Zombies suck calories, which themselves cause hunger from a distance. Examples of loud screams knock out your stamina. Controllers, in addition to inflicting with a psi shock wave, can also inflict psi-iron at close range without hitting the wave. Additionally, deploy the main character and fire shots from your weapon. Long-range barriers can knock out stamina, drop weapons when they lack stamina, and attack with a shockwave. Chapter 8 Armor. There is not much to say about the armor. All suits have different protection parameters, but there are some differences. Most suits have a gas mask and a mask.
Вместо защиты пулестойкости имеется класс брони. Собственно, чем выше класс, тем выше защита.
The most durable suits, i.e., where resistant, these are military. The condition of the suit directly depends on the weight carried. As for exoskeletons, the carrying weight of the work is when there are 2 batteries on the artifact belt. Over time, they discharge. Without movement, energy is not wasted. The battery can be found in caches or bought from Sakharov. They are charged by an associate professor in a bar. At the exoskeleton, SCAT-15M also need to look for upgrade blocks, after the task from the Akeem for documents.
У данного экзоскелета имеется система жизнеобеспечения. По умолчанию она включена.
The main difference from the OP is that this feature is optionally disabled by clicking on the key in the screw. I strongly recommend turning it off, since the supply of medicine is not enough for any walk. If there is an artifact, a battery or black energy on the belt, the carrying capacity of this suit increases by 30 kilograms, the so-called turbo mode, provided that you are overloaded. The artifact dissolves in the zero state. Chapter 9 Weapon. Unlike the original OP, there are many times fewer weapons here. There are also no super mega barrels, like PTRD and the like. In the hands of the main character, the weapon is heavily lowered down. This is done exclusively for your view. The pistols here are much more powerful, even more powerful than the Kalash, but the bullet range is too small. I use it very well against dog coilers in close combat. A pistol is capable of killing even monolith tanks. The most powerful pistol is the PB. You will be with it throughout the game. Besides, it has an integrated silencer, less attracts the attention of mutants. Different types of knives also have different damage. When stabbed, the main character gets tired. The knife has durability. The lower the durability, the less damage. Also, a knife is needed to cut off parts of mutants. The condition of the trophy depends on the strength of the knife. As for shotguns, they are divided into 2 classes. In the first class, a long-barreled hunting rifle has maximum power and range, but double-barreled shotguns are much more lethal than the rest. In the second class, with an automatic mode of fire or a power magazine or a high speed of formation, it has a shorter range and power, that is, much weaker than the first class. Cartridges like Z-Chen or Dart are very effective at long range with good damage. It's the best for a mutant. As for machine guns, mainly the damage depends on the muzzle velocity of the bullet, and the caliber actually does not play a role here. That is, the higher the bullet velocity, the higher the damage at long range. The muzzle velocity of the 7.6239 caliber bullet is less than that of the 5.45 or 5.56.
Автоматом АК-103 калибра 7,62 и АК-74М калибра 5,45 на расстоянии 50 метров урон будет больше у АК-103.
If you increase the enemy's range by 150 meters, then the damage of the AK-74 will be greater, since the muzzle velocity of the bullet is higher, respectively, and the damage will be greater. All weapons are divided into class within the same caliber, and it does the same damage, plus or minus small things due to small and significant differences in the muzzle velocity of the bullet, in different words. The differences within the class are only in sounds, animations, and the like. With careful aiming, it will also be the same. The 9.39 caliber weapon is a medium melee weapon. Whether it is a thunderstorm or a propeller, you need to remember that this caliber is a subsonic cartridge. It is virtually useless to shoot at a greater distance. Sniper rifles have a high bullet velocity, respectively, good damage at any distance. Burst fire from any assault rifle takes away stamina. Stamina is not taken away if the main character is in full sitting. Also, firing from a silencer, in addition to the integrated one, reduces the muzzle velocity of the bullet, increases the wear of the weapon. Silencers also reduce the detection radius of the main character, mutants or NPCs. To be honest, I never use mufflers in 2 passes, so decide for yourself to use them. As for machine guns, I actually did not use them. They are extremely uncomfortable and heavy. The cartridges are similarly heavy. It is generally useless to shoot with a minigun, since the accuracy of the shot is very important in the mod, and you cannot aim from it. Chapter 10. Repairs. Weapons and armor repairs can be repaired at vendors if the condition of the equipment is below 30%. However, it is expensive, and you need repair kits to repair it yourself. With a slight wear of 5 to 7% of your strength, you don't need anything except a repair kit. It is repaired by moving to the object. When more than 8% of the armor wears out, a cracking glass appears on the mask. And when repairing, you will need another suit for spare parts, whether it is an ordinary jacket or an exoskeleton. A corresponding repair window appears. The lower the condition of your suit and spare suit, the lower the chance that your suit will be repaired, similar to your weapon. The condition of the spare suit for repair must be at least 30%.
Если ваш костюм или оружие в состоянии ниже 70%, отремонтировать можно только у торговца.
Rain sets can be found in caches or exchanged with the merchant for artifacts. YY11. Artifacts. In this mod, artifacts are divided into 2 types, artificial and natural. You can distinguish them by the description in the cost of the artifact itself. Artificial artifacts can only be used to protect your hero or to turn in main quests. Also, any artifacts have its durability. In the zero state, the art does not dissolve and will not work on the belt. Wind artifacts can also be turned in on the main quests. For cyclic quests, you cannot turn in the spirit of art. Artificial art can be found in boxes, caches, and knowingly lying initially at the start of the game.
То есть, к примеру, в темной долине мамины бусы в строении возле фабрики, на свалке возле перехода в темную долину.
Also, when cooking, the artifact will always be artificial. The main goal in fashion is natural artifacts. They appear after the release or in caches. In laboratories, in a bar, in a hospital, and in Emergency 1.2, you cannot look for artifacts, they are not there. Depending on the progress of the game, the spawn of artifacts will decrease. Inflation goes in 3 stages. disabling the IK-16 installation, disabling the burner and after the plot of the Shadow of Chernobyl. There is no inflation on the radar location, there are always 4 artifacts after the ejection. On the main locations up to IK-16, 3 to 4 artifacts appear, on small locations 2 to 3. After IK-16, there are 2 to 4 artifacts on the main locations, 1 or 2 artifacts on the small ones.
После отключения выжигателя на основных эвакуациях от 1 до 4 артефакта, на маленьких от 1 до 2.
After the Shadows of Chernobyl story, there are 0 to 4 artifacts on the main locations and 0 to 2 artifacts on the small ones. Also, at these stages of inflation, emissions are more random. If at the beginning of the game there are outliers from an interval of 2 days, then after the plot of Shadows of Chernobyl, it can come a week later. For example, Carousel Family Artifacts, Level 1 Stone Blood, Level 2 Darkness Wave, Level 3 Soul. And each artifact of different levels has 5 gradations, from completely negative to the most positive, without negative properties, and the higher the gradation of the artifact, the faster it wears out when used. They have only 1 gradation. Modifications are also available. They are divided into 4 categories: modifications, mesomodifications, hypermodifications, absolutes. The price of natural modifications is quite decent. The higher the modification, the higher the price. Absolutes can be found on radar and further north. With a very small chance can be found in swamps. They appear in the form of capsules, which will need to be hidden from merchants. Siderovich, Bartender and Sakharov open the capsules for a simple artifact. Some artificial ones are also suitable. The capsules look like in Endless 7, only there were 3rd level art in the capsules and in dummy. Capsules in this mod are very reactive, and in order to deliver to the merchant you need a container for 1 artifact, when in Endless 7 the middle container was also suitable. The cobblestone artifact is considered a modification, and natural cobblestone gives an increase in weight. Artificial cobblestone has no properties and differs in weight from natural cobblestone. When dropped, artifacts from the 1st to the 3rd level that are not in the container lose, but do not turn into cobblestones. Bushes, modifications, and mesoviticates are not in danger. Hypermodifications, and it is absolutely better to store in a container, as after ejection they turn into artificial cobblestones. Also, natural artifacts can be found near barriers, from the simplest to the absolute in a capsule. The Lifekeeper artifact gives 3 saves anywhere. Gradually, over time, it is charged. The Carapace artifact on the belt protects your armor. The Feather artifact increases the carried overload by 20 kilograms. Again, not the main, but the maximum permissible weight carried. Any artifacts that accelerate the regeneration of the body or the speed of stamina recovery accelerate the onset of hunger by the same amount. When entering the location after being ejected, you must try to collect the maximum number of artifacts of immortality. If, for example, there are 4 artifacts on the location and you are saved by the campfire and die, then when loading a save by the campfire, 3 artifacts will change location and 1 will disappear. The second death will take away another artifact and 2 will move.
Если после смерти загрузить автосейв, то все 4 артефакта останутся, но поменяют местоположение.
Chapter 12. Cooking artifacts. As I said earlier, welded artifacts will be artificial, even if there are natural ones in the components. The main character in the mod learns to cook artifacts, that is, there is a skill to cook artifacts. It swings as follows. There are 5 levels of the artifact cooking skill. Beginner welder, cooking simple artifacts. Welder's apprentice, cooking of modifications. Welder of the first category, cooking of mesomodifications. Welder of the second category, cooking of hypermodifications. And a welder of the third category, cooking absolutes. And in order to get a novice welder, you need to weld 20 simple artifacts. Only after that you can cook modifications in the amount of 20 pieces, etc. Unsuccessful boils of cobblestones are not taken into account in the statistics. With each successful brew, the chance of the next brew increases. Also, the artifact is brewed with a bad charge, i.e., rotten, and with each brew, the quality of the artifact will increase. When the maximum cooking level is closed, then all artifacts will be brewed with the maximum success level and the maximum with charge. But there is a main rule in cooking: if you want to get the maximum charge of your artifact, at least a day must pass from the moment of the last cooking. Also, try to brew the same artifact to level up the skill, for example, a twist or a sparkler. Twists will be needed for the quest. You cannot weld two artifacts in the same anomaly. Look for another anomaly for the next brew. As for me, I was engaged in brewing in the first playthrough for the sake of interest and experience. In the second playthrough, I brewed a few artifacts exclusively for quests. Head 13. Trade. In this mod, there is both ordinary trade in various assortments and barter trade in a different assortment. With the usual one, it's already clear. I bought it for money and that's it. With the barter system, everything is different. The exchange takes place mainly for natural artifacts. He exchanges the cold for mushrooms. Raven exchanges for 12-gauge cartridges for the tails of pseudodogs. After several exchanges for tails, he will exchange for both artificial and natural modifications. At the same time, the exchange rate will be the same, and for the tails of pseudodogs, the rate after exchanging for tails will increase sharply. Dan also changes both from the artifact and for trophies. And there is also an exchange of trophies for other trophies. In the PDA section, the Merchant Offer Journal offers a specific list of products at different rates. But the main feature of this barter is that you can combine the assortment. That is, instead of the 20 bandages for the artifact offered by Siderovich, you can take 10 bandages for the rest of the resets. A very cool and convenient solution from the developer. It does not change from the charge of a simple artifact and the state of gradation of the exchange rate. It accepts both charged and rotten. And it doesn't matter what artifact you have, whether it's a jellyfish or a night star, the merchant will have the same price. In ordinary trade, the charge and the type of artifact itself have different prices, only the gradation remains unchanged. For trade and natural modifications, the trader offers a double rate, i.e., as for two simple artifacts. For the trade of natural absolutes, the merchant offers a fourfold rate, i.e., as for 4 simple artifacts. When selling artifacts, he buys sugars the most expensive. Also, some merchants exchange unique items for natural and artificial artifacts. Svibov, after the task for the controller's red brain, changes the red tentacles of the bloodsucker and the red hand of the barrier to a simple third-level artifact, a modification or mesomodification. As luck would have it, Vasily also gives a modification or mesomodification for the gunsmith's blueprints, and also buys rare trophies at a good price like a brain controller. Raven gives an artificial artifact or modification for rare weapons. Chapter 14. Parts of Mutants. Parts of Mutants are the same necessary resource in the mod. They, like in NLS 7, also rot. Completely rotten parts do not disappear from the inventory, but if you throw them out of the backpack, the zone will clean up. Personally, I do not throw away the rotten parts of the mutants, guarding them in a separate backpack. When passing, there will be the main tasks for trophies, so you will need to hand over any parts of the mutants. Siderovich, Barman, Varnin, Lukash, and Yasakharov have cyclical loot quests, and each merchant has a specific reward. I highly recommend it. This is a good source of ammo, medicine, which allows you to save natural artifacts.
У Захара имеется бартер на руки зомби. Он меняет на гранаты и грены, рандомно.
Inflation for a cyclical task is increasing every day. The trader requires more parts, and the reward decreases, but there is a maximum inflation threshold. Completely rotten trophies for cyclic quests are not accepted by the merchant. Den also trades trophies in the swamps for shotgun and machine gun ammo, Anton Zabin, and cigarettes. It does not accept trophies of mole rat tails and gerbor barrels. Homily
Глава
15.
15.
Caches. As in the NLS7 mod, the cache map displays the approximate location of the cache. And only if the cache is located in underground locations, it can be found on a minimap with an exact mark. The contents of the cache are a random casino. With a small chance, they drop from corpses. A cache is bought from an informant for 40 PDA. You can buy a stash from a random NPC for an artificial absolute. The wound in the NPC matters. The higher the rank, the higher the chance of a good stash. If there is excess vodka lying around, you can drink with the NPC before going to bed and maybe he will give a tip to the cache. There are caches from the developer. For example, during the first assault on the agricultural industry, a backpack with unnecessary buns lies in the closet near the case with documents. There is a so-called wandering hiding place. This cache is invisible on the map. There is no information about it. How does it work? It already works at the start of the game on the standard cache. If you check them on the way, then there is a small probability that there is some content there. With a certain periodicity, it changes its location. For 2 playthroughs, I accidentally came across such a cache in the eastern Pripyat on the first playthrough. Not that I constantly checked, I found out about this mechanic almost at the end of the game in the first playthrough. Later they prompted me in the chat on the stream. In the second playthrough, I did not come across a single cache, but there is a certain trick in the caches. The stash does not appear in a place where the main character has never been to the location. From this we conclude that it is exactly at the cordon and will not disappear beyond it. And checking each cache on the location, there are much more chances to meet it. After taking it, he appears in another place and again at the cordon. And this is in theory, since I personally did not test this method of farming caches. If you want, you can try. I will be glad to receive comments about the experiment. When storing your own hiding place, you need to put a lock, as there is theft. Work according to the script, as in NLC 7. Gone to another location, say goodbye to your wood. Standard caches are limited, have a limited number of places of signs. With the help of a backpack, you can lay your own hiding place. They are limitless, but they also need to be locked.
Эти рюкзачки волшебные. А волшебные они потому, что все, что в них положено, перестает существовать с точки зрения игры.
That is, they do not consume scarce indicators and memory. You can at least put the entire collection of weapons in such a backpack right in the bar, and there will be no lags and crashes from memory. Clava 16. Farm. As I said earlier, resources in DSH are natural artifacts, and you will be forced to exchange them mainly for first aid kits, bandages, ring kits for further passage. We know that they appear after being released, which means harvest time. Depending on the tasks, try to build a route in such a way as to collect both artifacts and complete tasks, mainly a circular route. As I said earlier, it is more convenient to assemble from the entrance to the location. If you wish, you can always download an autosave after death. Before going to the X16 laboratory, I recommend accumulating a couple of dozen natural artifacts, so to speak, to have a certain reserve for unforeseen expenses. After X16, the first deflation of artifacts will occur. The lots of mutant corpses drops only if you killed it. If a bandit or mutant was killed by another NPC, then it will be empty. But it is still worth searching it, since there is a chance of spawning the cache. Red trophies do not disappear from the imbuer blood-sucking modder if he is killed by another NPC. For some reason, NPC mutant trophies are squeamish about collecting, but the exception was the Svoboda checkpoint. They also do not want to collect trophies. There were not enough dog tails, they put it down, came another time, accumulated, handed it over. Cartridges will not be superfluous. Dan trades the rest of the extra trophies in the swamps for ammo for your shotgun. Natural modifications are profitable to sell. The most expensive, as I said earlier, takes sugars on the internet. Do not forget that the final price depends on the charge of the artifact. I sold them loaded, and we changed the shoes. I did not sell radiation removal modifications, this is a family of porcupines, and did not sell natural cobblestones, as they give an additional weight carried. The rest of the useful artifacts were mainly used for their intended purpose, and then exchanged if necessary. Chapter 17. Useful tips and other tricks. I decided to add this chapter due to the fact that often watching broadcasts on Dash, beginners use the tactics of a typical passage. For example, repeating the same actions, loading the last safe, running ahead, hoping that you will slip through a certain gap. And there are a lot of such mistakes, which often burn and go into tilt. And here the main thing to accept is that you need to completely rebuild your thinking to accurate gameplay, in short. When downloading the DSH-MOD, you should know that this is OP2 with mechanics from NLS, which means that you should be prepared for deaths, and you will have a lot of them. The mod developer himself warns about this.
Для тех, кто не играл в объединенный пак и отдельно в NLC, рекомендую пройти данные моды, чтобы было некое представление, что тебя ждет в DSH-моде.
When walking with artifacts or completing tasks, always look back. Mutants do not sleep. Try to walk near stones, buildings, even trees. Any shelter increases the chances of survival. Consider empty Christmas trees a house. You went on the road or under the Christmas tree. Consider that you survived calmly, slowly shot the mutants. Your health and hunger are your speed of movement. I recommend keeping your protagonist completely healthy and well-fed. Always have a supply of food and medicine in interest. Vasily sells food the cheapest in the swamps. For long raids I bought everything. There were 5 units of food left. I went again, along the way carrying the trophies to Dina and the red trophies to Svivel. Bleeding will be your main problem. There should always be a supply of bandages. Before X16, I bought 50 pieces. After X16, I bought 100 pieces. Mycotite bleeding artifacts practically do not work. Do not rely on them, and use a bandage. There are 2 pistol slots, the main and the spare. Use wisely. Dogs often throw off their weapons. Fortunately, the pistols are taken out very quickly. If you pick up weapons from the ground, then the barrel is placed not in the vault, but in the backpack. By the way, the most infuriating moment in 2 playthroughs. Often in the first playthrough, he died because of this. But it is logical that you pick up weapons with your hands, not with a backpack. There is a quick reset of the backpack. In order to function, you need to have a separate backpack in the backpack. If there is vodka in wine containers, be extremely careful. It breaks from any physical damage, from falling from a height to being hit by a wave from the barrier. Breaks even when moving if you drop your backpack. And so that the vodka does not break when dropping the backpack, drop it in a stationary state. I do not recommend looting the zombified. You will spend more medicine than you will collect loot. I almost forgot to mention that if you received a message about the death of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, then a natural artifact appeared on this location, in which you are at the moment. But the message comes in the event that you are on the location from 30 minutes to 6 hours of real time without deaths. Follow the sleep of the main character. Your walking speed also affects your sleep. As a last resort, you can use a sleeping bag. You can buy it from Siderovich, but the price of the sleeping bag bites and the number of uses of the sleeping bag is limited. You can also prolong the vigor of the main character with an energy drink. For the first use of the energy drink, the vigor of the main character is extended by 1.5 hours of playing time, for the second use 1 hour of playing time, and for the third use of 30 minutes of playing time. I recommend using energy only when absolutely necessary, as it has a side effect and the main one will require more time for sleep. To get a good night's sleep, try to build a sleep schedule for the main character. I recommend getting up at 6 a.m. and lying down to rest from 7 to 9 p.m. And before going to bed, take off your equipment completely and throw your backpack on the ground. Enclosed with a swag backpack, your main character will not sleep until the end. Also, the consumed energy drink restores endurance for some time, slightly speeds up the run, and slightly increases the jump. Running and jumping increase for a very short time, only to jump into some story cache.
Выносливость восстанавливается только при наличии перегруза в течение всего времени действия.
I highly recommend vodka for use. It restores a little psi health and blocks psi damage for a while. To restore psi health, if there are no fires, it is better to smoke cigarettes, cigars and drink beer. Beer removes hunger a little more. The Panther can be revived with a living heart, unlike the original NC. The beginning of the game is the most difficult moment, the moment when you have nothing. Here you need to be patient, and over time, buns will be given out for quests. The next stage of patience is the first stum of the agricultural industry. The next stage of difficulty is the first approach to the radar. In addition to the abundance of mutants, super accurate monoliths await you here. Here I advise you to take more medicine and rekits. Otherwise there will not be enough in vain and there will be either a rollback in preservation, or you will run for a new portion of medicine and rekits. The most stuffy moment that needs to be overcome is the first approach to CHLS2 with crowds of monoliths. In addition to the supply of resets and medicine, I advise you to take hypermodifications of the shell. They protect your armor. Here they realize themselves in all their glory. It is mandatory to clear the monoliths on the first run, since there will be no subsequent spawns and the location will be virtually empty and will not interfere with subsequent tests. Well, stalkers, I really hope that the video will be useful. It took 2 complete playthroughs without third-party edits. Definitely state that this is the top 1 most difficult mod. Against its background, other mods will be less hardcore for you. Perhaps I didn't tell you something about fashion, but all the small features are difficult to remember. I will be glad to have the maximum asset in the form of views of this video, likes and subscription to the channel. Well, it's time for me, friend. The zone will bring me together. See you.